In life, we often find ourselves navigating vast seas of thoughts and emotions. These waves, sometimes gentle and other times furious, tend to shape our lives in ways we often don't fully understand. And yet, beneath the surface of these shifting tides, there is an inner stillness, a quiet space where peace can be found, where happiness exists not as something external to pursue, but as a state of being that we can learn to foster within ourselves. This understanding, this awareness, was exactly what Viktor Frankl, a psychiatrist, neurologist, and Holocaust survivor, sought to impart in his groundbreaking work, Man's Search for Meaning. Frankl's approach to happiness is as simple as it is profound. It is not something that can be chased, grasped, or forced into existence. Rather, happiness is something that is discovered through living a meaningful life. But what exactly does it mean to live a meaningful life? And how can we apply that in our daily existence, particularly in a world that constantly seems to demand more from us, more success, more achievement, more validation? These are the kinds of questions that Man's Search for Meaning compels us to reflect upon, but it also offers practical insights for answering them. For Frankl, meaning didn't just come from our work or our accomplishments. It wasn't something that could be found in external validation or material gain. Instead, meaning emerged from within, from the way we chose to respond to the challenges that life threw at us. This is where psychology and philosophy intersect. Frankl's theory, known as logotherapy, rests on the idea that human beings are not just driven by a need for pleasure, as Freud suggested, or by a quest for power, as Adler proposed. Instead, Frankl believed that the primary motivational force in human beings is the search for meaning. He observed, during his time in the concentration camps, that the people who survived the trauma, who managed to hold on to their sense of self, were those who found meaning in their suffering. This concept is powerful because it reframes suffering from something meaningless, something to be avoided at all costs, to something that can be endured and even transcended. It's a shift in perspective that is both liberating and healing. When we understand that our suffering can have meaning, that it can be part of a larger journey towards personal growth, we stop viewing it as something to fear or resist. Instead, we begin to approach life with a kind of quiet resilience, knowing that even in our darkest moments, there is a deeper purpose at work. Think of the times in your life when you've faced challenges, whether it was a personal loss, a period of professional struggle, or even the quiet battles you've fought within your own mind. These moments have the potential to shape you. They can either break you down or propel you forward. Frankl's insight was that it is not the challenge itself that defines us, but the way we choose to respond to it. When we understand this, we tap into a powerful source of inner strength, one that can help us find meaning, even in the face of suffering. This brings us to a fundamental idea in psychology, the concept of agency. Agency refers to the capacity to act independently, to make choices, and to shape our own destiny. It's what gives us control over our lives, no matter how chaotic or out of control the world may seem. And this is where the beauty of Frankl's work lies. He doesn't deny that life can be cruel or that suffering exists. What he offers, instead, is the incredible gift of agency, the power to find meaning and purpose, even in the most difficult of circumstances. If we approach life through the lens of agency, we begin to realize that we don't have to be defined by our circumstances. We can redefine our lives at any given moment. The past no longer has the power to haunt us, and the future is not something to fear. The present, however, is always within our grasp. Now, let's pause and think for a moment. What is your current relationship with happiness? Is it something that feels elusive, always just out of reach? Or is it something you can actively cultivate in your daily life? Perhaps, like many, you've been taught to chase happiness as if it were a prize to be won. And yet, you may have noticed that the harder you chase, the further it seems to slip away. This brings us to another core idea in Frankl's teachings. Happiness is not the goal of life, meaning is. When we focus too much on happiness itself, we may find that it escapes us precisely because we've made it our objective. But when we focus on living a life that is meaningful, happiness becomes a natural byproduct. This shift is not just a philosophical insight. It's also deeply rooted in psychology. In positive psychology, researchers have found that people who are driven by purpose and meaning, whether that purpose is found in relationships, work, creativity, or something else, tend to report higher levels of well-being and life satisfaction. It's as though meaning acts as a foundation, and happiness arises as a result of living authentically and in line with one's values. The great irony is that when we stop seeking happiness directly, it has a way of finding us. Let's take a moment to reflect on this within the context of your own life. Consider an experience where you found fulfillment, not from external rewards, but from the act of doing something that felt deeply meaningful. It could be the joy of creating something from scratch, the satisfaction of helping another person, or the sense of peace that comes with taking care of your own mental health. These are the moments when we are most connected to the essence of who we are, and it is through these experiences that happiness naturally flows. Of course, living a meaningful life doesn't mean everything will always be easy or smooth. There will still be challenges, difficulties, and moments of self-doubt. But it is precisely in these moments that Frankl's insights become most relevant. When we encounter pain or suffering, we are given a choice. How do we respond? Do we collapse under the weight of it? Or do we look for the deeper meaning behind it? Psychologically speaking, when we face hardship, our brains naturally enter a state of stress. The fight or flight response kicks in, and we may feel overwhelmed by fear, anxiety, or helplessness. But by reframing the situation, by looking for meaning or purpose in the struggle, we activate different neural pathways. We engage our prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain associated with higher level thinking, decision-making, and perspective-taking. This allows us to step out of the immediate emotional reaction and approach the situation with a sense of control, even if we don't have all the answers. In many ways, Frankl's work is a testament to the power of the mind to shape our experience of life. It's a reminder that, while we may not have control over every aspect of our external world, we do have the ability to shape our internal world. This is where true freedom lies, not in escaping suffering, but in finding meaning within it. When we adopt this mindset, we start to live differently. We stop seeing ourselves as victims of circumstance and instead see ourselves as active participants in our own lives. We move from passively accepting life's events to actively engaging with them, making choices that reflect our values, our sense of purpose, and our deeper understanding of who we are. As we continue this exploration of Frankl's ideas, it's important to remember that the search for meaning is not something that happens overnight. It's a lifelong journey, one that requires patience, resilience, and an openness to the lessons that life has to offer. But the beauty of it is that each step we take in this direction, each moment we choose meaning over despair, purpose over passivity, brings us closer to the peace and happiness that we seek.